number 3.
I see a lot of 1s and 2s and 3s, so we'll do those 3. All of these can be done in Desmos, so we'll do that. For number 1, if I put these points in, and I look at these points, I see they're on the same vertical line. Vertical lines have undefined slope, so your slope will be undefined. Remember, if you're doing what I'm doing, checking it in Desmos, you can just put it in Desmos. You don't have to show the work. Questions on that one? For the second one, you can do this one of 3 ways. 1, put capital X's in for the expression. Nope. Add in the slider, change the value to -4. And it'll tell you the answer is 29. You could also change the variable to something else, A, B, C, through the alphabet, except probably avoid E and I, don't do X, Y, Z. And it would do the same thing. You could add the slider, put that in, or you could use parentheses and put the number in directly. And it would give you that same answer. But the answer is 29. Questions there? The last one, you could also put those into Desmos either as separate ordered pairs or as a table. And I can see that these points aren't going to make a line that goes to the origin, so they're not direct. They kind of make a curve type shape, but not even, so it's not inverse, so it would have to be neither. If you did this algebraically, if you started dividing y by x, you would get different numbers for each thing. And if you started multiplying, you would get similar answers, but some would be positive and some would be negative. So they would not be the same, so also neither. Questions on any of those 3? Okay. We're going to go through the answers to SOL A.2a through C. If you don't have it and need another one, raise your hand. If you know you have it, but maybe it's at home, just write down these answers so you have at least have them for later. Okay. So when I show you this, just write down the answers. Don't worry about writing down the work. We're going to be starting what we're about to see next week. So next week you can go back and see if you can actually do this. So again, just write down the answers, not the work. So number 1, just write down 16 over x to the 10th. Number 2, 5y to the 15th over x to the 7th. Number 3, 1 over x to the 5th, y to the 8th. Number 4, 16y to the 7th. Just write down those answers. Don't worry about the work right now. Number 5, 25x to the 4th. Number 6, y to the 3rd over 6x to the 4th. Number 7, a to the 11th. And number 8 was D. Once you have those all written down, go on to the next page. Once we go through all the answers, I'll show you how to do these in Desmos. Again, we're just writing down answers for A to B. X minus 5 for number 9. 2x plus 2, or 2 parentheses x plus 1 for number 10. 3x minus 5 for number 11. 7x plus 5 for 12. X minus 3 for 13, and then I'll scroll down just a second. $14, 3x plus 1. 15, 4n plus 1. And 16 was C. And go on to the next page. For 2C, circle these three things, 2x minus 3, and 2x plus 3. 18a, write this in parentheses, x minus 1, and then x minus 3. 18b, you should have been able to do, because that was just finding x and y intercepts. X intercepts were 1, 0, and 3, 0. Y intercepts were 0, 3. And then this notation is weird, but just write it down. For 18C, domain, this is supposed to be a curly bracket. X, a line, this is a straight line. X, this is like a weird E, like a backwards 3. This is like a capital R with another line through it. And then curly brackets. Or, this should look familiar because we just did interval notation, negative infinity to infinity, both with parentheses. So this is something we're going to be talking about later. And then for the range, again, start with the curly bracket. Y, a line. Y is greater than or equal to negative 1, curly bracket. Or square bracket, negative 1 to infinity. 19 was A, 20 was C, and 21 was D. this down. So I'll go back to 16. Was C. Okay, so on Desmos, the first section can't really be done on Desmos, but you can use Desmos to check yourself. So I'll show you some of those. If I put in the original problem with capital X's, like we did for the evaluating problem, I add in a slider, I do the work, simplify it, which we'll talk about how to do that next week, change this to some value that's not 1, 0, or -1. If I put in my final answer, the numbers that they give should be the same. So that's a good way to check yourself. If the numbers aren't the same, you know something is wrong, it just won't tell you what. Same thing if you have 2, change the numbers to something that's not 1, -1, or 0. Put in the original, do the work, put in your answer. If the numbers match, that is your answer. So you can do that for all the problems we're going to be doing next week in the next unit, most of the ones in the next unit. The one that was multiple choice, same thing, if I put in the actual problem and I put in all the answer choices, only one of them is going to match the answer, and that would tell you which one would be your answer. In 2B, if you type in the original problem, it's going to give you a line. That line, you're able to count or find the y-intercept, count the slope. And I know from this line, my y-intercept is -5, my slope is 1, so my equation would be y equals x minus 5. If I go back to my answer, it didn't have the y equals, but it did have the x minus 5. So that's a good way to see it in Desmos. It won't have the y equals, but it will make a line, and whatever that line is will tell you your answer. The one that's multiple choice, if you put in the original, put in all the answer choices, one of the lines is going to overlap with the original, and that would tell you that's your answer. Then in 2C, there's a lot going on. So this was like the first problem that had all the little boxes of which of the factors. So this was the original problem, is this U shape. If you had a problem like this, if you put in all the answer choices, you're looking for which of these lines cross this U shape, but cross it at the x-axis. So if I get rid of all the ones that don't do that, I can see that these two lines cross this U shape at the x-axis. And that's a good way to see it in Desmos. The 2 that we circled, there's a specific way on how to do that, and we'll be learning about that. But for the other ones, again, if I put in if it's multiple choice, if I put in the original, I have this U shape, and one of these lines has to cross it at the x-axis, and the red one is the only one that does that. So I can see that would be my answer. Questions on any of the Desmos things? We'll be doing that more as we talk through these things. Okay. So some of you need to finish your tests. I'm going to reserve these 2 tables for those that need to finish their tests. Everyone else can come over here. I'll get them situated first and then pass out tests, and you can decide if you're going to retake or not. Don't move yet. Aiden, have a seat. If you are retaking, you can start on retake work. If you are not retaking, everyone will be working on this.